I'm Anil Kumar. Welcome to my series on patterns. This lesson is for grade 4 students here in Ontario. Grade 3, 4, and 5 will really benefit from this series of videos. We'll introduce to you different terms applicable for patterns. We'll talk about attributes of a pattern. We'll have a letter model of patterns, number patterns. We'll make a T chart for the given patterns and we'll do some measurements while working with the T chart. Then we'll share with you some test questions. We'll also talk about nonlinear patterns and 2D patterns, two-dimensional patterns. So let's begin with the very basic thing, which is attributes. Now, attribute is really a very difficult term to understand at this stage, but it's very important to understand. What do we mean by attribute? Well, the attribute means a characteristic or a quality that can be used to describe or compare things, right? So some of the attributes are shape, size, numbers, colors, texture, and position. So these are attributes which we'll be commonly using in the patterns. Now here we have two examples. I would like you to pause the video. We are given the patterns here. I would like the students to identify the how many attributes are here. So we have question number 1 and question number 2 related to the patterns shown here. Question number 1 here is how many attributes are changing, and question number 2 is describe the pattern by telling how each attribute is changing, right? So that's kind of a critical question. Okay, how many attributes are changing? So out of these shape, size, number, color, texture, position, things like that, you have to figure out when we are talking about the very first one, how many of these attributes are changing, correct? So for example, you can see that the shape is changing, correct? So we have one attribute which is shape, which is changing for sure. We have squares and circles. Now color is also changing. The color changes from orange to yellow. And how about the number? Well, the number also changes. So we have 2, 1, 2, 1, and that is how this pattern could be described using these attributes. So I hope that point is clear. So with that in mind, I'd like you to write down your answer now. For question number 2, what really is changing? Well, one of the thing definitely is color, right? So the color changes from blue, yellow, red, blue, yellow, red. The other thing is we can say position. Now, when we orient an arrow, like going towards the right or downwards, we are changing its position. So in this particular case, color and position changes. So what we notice here that in the very first pattern, three attributes change, and in the second one, two attributes change. Now that is part 1. Part 2 is to describe the pattern by telling how each attribute is changing. That is to say, you have to now write down when we talk about shape, how is shape changing, right? That is what you need to write here. So how is the shape changing? Square, square, circle, right? So you will write here in a sequence which is, let me write down here, will be square, square, circle, and then again square, square, circle, and that is how it continues. So this is as far as shape is concerned. Do you see that? So that is how you are going to describe it. Similarly, for the color also, you will describe in this fashion. You'll write down color, and the color changes from orange, orange, yellow, orange, and so on. So that is how you are going to describe. Now, similarly, for numbers, you'll describe 2121 like this. So, similarly, you have to describe. So, I hope you got the hint, right? Okay, so now let's look into this once again. I will now like you to pause the video and write down the answer just as we were trying to do. So you have to first list the attribute. Now in this particular case, let me give you for solution for 2. In this case, 1 is color, right? So we could say color changes from blue, yellow, red to blue, yellow, red. Is that clear to you, right? So that is what you'll say. And as far as position is concerned, how will you write the position? You can say right, the arrow is pointing right, down, right, right, down. So basically, two rights are followed by down. Do you see that? So that is how you're going to describe this. So I hope you've understood how to associate attributes with the pattern rules. Correct? So that is the first part. Now, extending this, we have letter model. Now, letter model is unique to grade 4 and one of the most difficult in pattern. So, let's try to understand this very clearly. What is a letter model? So, in a letter model, we create a letter model for the given pattern, right? So, what do we do here? We give a letter to each and describe its attribute. So, for example, here we have a blue square, right? So, let me just make one here. So, if I have a blue square here, let me color this blue. Then in that case, we'll say, well, this is my letter A, right? So I'm giving a letter. That is what we mean when we say give a letter to each and describe its attribute. So we have to describe the attribute also. So what is A? So is a square, or you can say blue square. That is better. Now you also notice that there are smaller squares also. So we'll write big blue square. Do you see that? So we say that is the letter which is representing the square. And then in its position, we will write A. Do you get the idea? Correct. Similarly, we'll now take up the other, which is a circle for us. Correct. So we'll say circle. That's the yellow circle for us. And we can write down this as a letter B. So we can say big yellow circle. And in its position, we will write the letter B. Similarly, you can continue. So you can make a small square and then name this as C. And then we can say small green square. And put this C right there in the position of small green square. Do you see how it continues? So that is how we have to continue the letter model. This is what we mean by saying create a letter model and describe the pattern. Correct? So you have to continue in this fashion. So what I have here is the solution for you. So that is how you'll neatly describe it. Do you see this? Right? So each figure is described here. For example, what you notice here is first a big blue square, big yellow circle, a small green square, and a red small circle. Once you say these are A, B, C, D associated with our figures, in that case, in the model, we have to just write these numbers, letters for the figures. So it is easy to describe the pattern. That is what we mean by saying a letter model. So is that clear to you? Perfect. So with that in mind, I'll share with you a question which you could practice. So here is your question to practice. We have a letter model for pattern and this is your practice test. So you can actually pause the video now, copy the question and answer. Create a letter model for the given pattern. Give a letter to each and describe its attribute. That is the first step you're going to do. A, B, C, D for each and describe their attributes. That is color, size, shape, correct? And then arrange the letters in the form of the pattern. So write the letters in the form of the pattern. So fill in the space with the letters which you design. You could design X, Y, Z, write any letters you want. Now, with the help of letters, it really becomes very convenient to describe a shape. You get the idea, right? So that is what you have to do in this particular exercise. With that, we come to an end of this particular patterns video where we are describing attributes and the letter model. In the next video, we will see how to describe number patterns. I hope you find it interesting and useful. Feel free to write your comments, share your views, and if you like and subscribe to my videos, that'd be great. Thanks for your time and all the best.